Right, it's like we're live here. So welcome everyone to another AMA here for Sesameseed. I'm here with Julian. Care to introduce yourself?
Right, it's like we're live here. Hi there guys, I'm Julian. I'm just here to talk to everybody, to introduce a little bit more about Multichain SEED community, building a blockchain community across multiple blockchains, our token, and some of our values to answer some Q&As here.
Yeah, so, and I'm Humpty for those of you who are just joining us and don't know who we are. Julian is the CEO of Sesameseed. I'm head of marketing at Sesameseed. And along with a pretty big team now, we are working and collaborating on blockchain development. So earlier this week, we made an announcement about Sesameseed becoming a Crosschain community, and the seed token becoming a multi-chain token. And so what we'll be discussing today is more of a review of everything that has been already mentioned in several articles on Medium and on Telegram, and also making an effort to answer as many of the questions that we received from the community. And there were several that were asked on Telegram, many of which were answered, but to ensure that as many people get this information and are clear on what this means for Sesameseed, what this means for seed, we're going to be answering those directly today. So without further ado, maybe we could do just a quick recap of what is Sesameseed.
Sure. So Sesameseed is a blockchain community we've built around some pretty basic core values. Transparency, community, trust, and honesty to really build a more fair and comprehensive community. Our mission is basically to build a cross-chain community that rewards its participants. We're trying to encourage people to engage, and we feel that that's really the way you build a sustainable blockchain, is by encouraging community engagement. At the end of the day, developers come to develop for a community. A community bands around blockchains that are strong and properly represent those associated with it. So we're here to support those. Kind of the big announcement, obviously, this week is the movement to a multi-chain Sesameseed to build a truly cross-chain community. This is going to invite a lot of new people in. We're going to be talking about who that new blockchain is today. We're going to be talking a little bit here about the seed token. And this is really a wide open forum for us to answer any questions that you guys may have on this new change to the seed token and Sesameseed.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. That I feel extremely fortunate to be a part of this team, because I have seen how from the very beginning last year, this has always been about community, as is evident by the engagement that our entire team has on the platforms on which we operate. So we're on Telegram, and there's always either Julian or myself or any of the other members from our team are engaging, answering as many questions as possible. And so as we've evolved, as Sesameseed has evolved over this year, their core values have become more evident. What were driving values quickly became those very clear values that had to be written down so that we had made sure that any of the changes or updates that were coming to Sesameseed or Seed Germinator all operated within these values, right? And so as Julian mentioned, and I feel are worth reiterating, we'll start with community and then transparency that the organization has with its community, and then the privacy that it allows its membership. And from those values, a mission was very kind of came to be. And so that mission is what we throw everything against, including this evolution of Sesameseed into a cross-chain community. We threw that against the mission, which is to advance the principles of decentralization, right? And so we feel that as a cross-chain community, we have the responsibility to do that. And so let's talk a little bit about what cross-chain communities means. And so Julian, if you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about what that is. And so just cross-chain and Sesameseed as a cross-chain community.
Sure. So I guess to that point, that kind of was the impetus for us to make this change. We noticed that there was a lot of people out there doing a lot on different blockchains. A lot of communities were trying to get going. We saw some potential communities out there that maybe were not being well represented on the blockchains that they were a part of. And we thought to ourselves, hey, we have a community here that we built on transparency and trust. We've attached a sustainable token model to that can continue to accrue value. So why not go ahead and expand that community in the interest of rewarding everybody with a more sustainable system.
Well, that's excellent. And so, so we should also mention that this topic has been defined as best as possible within a lot of the articles that have been shared recently. And so there are articles on Medium, there are videos on YouTube here on this channel here, so that you're welcome to, in addition to what we'll be discussing today, going in there and finding a lot of information, informing yourself as best you can, and then taking that and then bringing that back to us and asking us those questions so that we can answer your questions and make sure that you understand completely what this means. So now as far as Sesameseed or Seed's token, how does becoming a multi-chain token change the way Seed operates?
Sure. So everybody knows the way that Seed has been issued and has come into circulating supply today, and that's mostly based around this one-to-one peg that we've maintained since we launched on Tron. We've done our rewards at this 80-10-10 rate. We've taken one-to-one all the tokens that we've been rewarded on Tron, and we've issued Seed. Take 80% of those and we've sent them out to those that participated in the community. We've taken 10% of those and put them into the Seed Germinator Fund so we can fund developers and build on that. And we've taken 10% for operating expenses. The first big change here is us shifting that to 100,000, a fixed rate. So what that fixed rate does is it allows us to build a system where a peg can constantly increase. So we're still going to be pegging the Seed token to those total rewards, but we're going to be putting it into a smaller bucket. And by doing that, what you can do is take the Tron peg and start to build on that. We can be at 1-to-1, and we can slowly ramp that up to 1.05 to 1, to 1.1 to 1, and so on. We can continue up that ramp. The other interesting aspect of that is by holding to a fixed circulating supply like that, once we go multi-chain, we can add an additional peg. So by going to a second chain, you can then say, hey, the total circulating supply of Seed is now going to be pegged to the node rewards off of this other chain. So we could have, on chain B, we could get, say, a certain number of tokens, and we'll just take those tokens, the total reward, we'll divide them across, we'll divide those by the total circulating supply of Seed to give us the new peg. So that peg can also start to increase on a day-to-day basis. So Seed token, which is pegged to Tron, currently at 1-to-1, consistently going up. And then we'll have Seed token will also be pegged to a second token, starting at 0 and constantly going up over time. These, of course, will always be redeemable at any time. We'll talk a little bit more about those systems.
Excellent. So in addition to Seed's peg, which has been something that has, from the very beginning, was something unique, something that was interesting in the Tron space, and has now evolved to becoming this peg token across multiple blockchains. There is another element to Sesameseed that was unique and that will continue to operate in the same way as it moves into new blockchains, and that is the 80-10-10 rewards model. Can you talk a little bit more about that model and how that will either stay the same or change as it moves into new blockchains?
Sure. So the 80-10-10 is something that we founded right at our launch. We launched Sesameseed. What's the date today?
Today is, you asked the question that wasn't on my map, the 24th of April.
We launched Sesameseed exactly two days short of a year ago.
Wow.
So almost exactly a year ago. And we launched it with this 80-10-10. That was what we came out of the gate with. It was not always seen as the best way to build on blockchain. I think we've proven that it is. It wasn't 80-10-10. That rule was a way for us to really incentivize participation in Sesameseed, to also drive a large amount of the rewards directly to developers. I think that those that are a part of the Sesameseed community have seen us obviously supporting developers and building on Tron. When we started looking at this new, at this additional chain, we started to kind of reassess that rule. We went back and forth on this a lot, and we've really determined that it's a simple rule. It's been effective. We've proven that over the last year, and we're going to maintain that on the future chains we're going to.
That's excellent. And, I'll just add a little bit of, kind of dressing on this amazing topic that you're just discussing right now. And I do recall when Sesameseed was founded, and I do recall, that rewards model, and how it was a topic of some heated debate amongst community members, amongst other stars in the beginning, where it was believed that the best way to support the blockchain was to either keep all of those rewards to oneself, to continue development on the blockchain, or to give away all of the rewards to the community. And it was in finding a balance by which Sesameseed could sustain itself, Sesameseed could incentivize its participation on the blockchain, by giving 80% of those rewards back to the community, and then by creating a platform by which you can support development as well, right? Seed Germinator is what we're discussing here. We were able to create an ecosystem that isn't just sustainable, I should say, but encourages development not just by the developers, by the blockchain, but by the community. Yep. The community felt incentivized to participate and vote, if you will, on which project should be moving forward. And so Seed Germinator has become a recognizable element to the success of Sesameseed.
Yeah.
So how will Seed Germinator continue to operate into new blockchains?
Sure. So I think that this really touches on the key point of what we're trying to do here, and that's the success of the underlying blockchain itself. And the success of the blockchain itself is the utilization of that chain, which requires development. And why do people develop on a blockchain? They develop on that chain because they're supported by the chain. It's not because of the efficiencies and benefits of that chain. Sure, they most notably build on that chain because of the community that surrounds them. And so, at the end of the day, when you see a developer coming to a blockchain, the real key factor there is the community involvement. Yeah. So Seed Germinator has been our way to keep and to build a community that's actively involved with the developers themselves. It's been a platform for developers to come in, put ideas or concepts up there, and have them built with the support of a large active community. And the way Seed Germinator is going to evolve in the multi-chain environment is that I don't anticipate a lot of significant changes in how it operates today. Seed token will be available on multiple chains. It's going to be a multi-chain token, and Seed Germinator is built around the Seed token. So obviously you'll be able to participate in projects from one chain to another. You'll be able to help to see rewards from those contributions contributions be distributed across all seed token holders. So I think that we're going to really facilitate maybe even cross-chain contribution or participation. We can see things on Tron wanting to build on new chains. We can see things on new chains wanting to come to Tron. So there's a lot of ability there to collaborate.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a fantastic point. And I can't really recall who asked this question. We are going to be going right into questions right after this. But I do want to recognize the question that was asked that I think that you're talking about specifically right now, which is about how is this a move that could either help Tron to show our continued support for Tron, or if this is a way to step away our support from Tron. And what I'm hearing from you is that any success from Sesameseed can be directly traced back to its birth on the Tron network,
Sure.
right? As a community that was originally spawned from the Tron blockchain. And so as we continue to move forward, there's always a focus on how can we continue to integrate these communities across different blockchains into the blockchains on which we already exist, including Tron.
That's exactly right. One kind of key point before we go into questions a bit more here that I do want to mention on is, again, I just want to hit on the importance of the community in a blockchain. And I'm going to pick on a blockchain here for a second, which I know I shouldn't. EOS is a fantastic example. Block producers there are not permitted to reward those that stake or their BPs. So the rewards are very much kept within the block producers or SRs on that blockchain. And you see what that does, and it pushes the community involvement back. Because right now people want to be engaged, they want to learn more about it, they want to see active update to the day, what's happening on that chain, and rewards are just one way to do that. And attaching those rewards to developer incentives, to developer funding is a fantastic way to do that. And that's kind of where we're going with this, is how a seed token, which is a reward, it is an incentive for participation in Sesameseed, can be used as a part of that dialogue in engaging development on a blockchain. So when a blockchain puts out there, hey, there's an incentive, get involved, it's going to attract the community there, and as a result, developers.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. And I think we're definitely going to dive into more questions in a moment. So I'll withhold any other questions I may want to ask as well. But before we move into the questions and answers section of this AMA, we do want to recognize the community across all these platforms, be it Telegram, on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever Sesameseed has a presence, for participating. The participation, goes beyond simply staking or voting for Sesameseed. It actually goes into the way that the community interacts with Sesameseed. It's dialogue, the questions that are asked, the challenges that are presented, because that's the only way that Sesameseed can improve and continue to evolve as well. And so we do want to recognize everyone who participated and asked questions. And to that, I also want to add, we should recognize some of these members that I think took an extra effort to find out what it is we were doing. And so Sudo LZ55 Decaffeinated, that's a long name for Telegram. We want to say thank you to you for, going in there and saying, you know what, I think I know what you guys are going to do. You guys want to become a cross-chain community. And I believe may have been the person to say, and I think you may do it on Ontology.
Yeah.
So we do want to, kind of recognize that and say thank you for being in there and participating in that. And to Doctor, who then took that extra effort and came back with material proof that Sesameseed was operating a node on Ontology already. And so, just keep an eye open on any of these dialogues that we have and continue to engage with us on all these platforms and ask questions, take guesses on anything that we're doing. We welcome it all. And so with that, we should probably move into the Q&A part of this. And so I'll start with a question from Telegram that was asked by DC 2700. Will this change expand the user base of Seed, allowing for more funding of projects? So it seems like an easy question, but worth asking and answering as well.
So I mean, obviously we're going to be going on to a new blockchain and future blockchains that will make for more seed holders. It will also make, because of the nature of seed itself being at a fixed 100,000 seed per day at this change, it may reduce the amount of seed that people do earn on a day-to-day basis. But we do anticipate that those additional holders are certainly going to be more exposed to what Sesameseed is doing. We're going to have a few announcements that kind of pair along with how these rewards are going to be claimed, how you're going to interact with Seed, how you're going to interact with Sesameseed in a cross-chain way. Obviously, if you're going to be claiming a token from two chains, it's kind of hard to do that on one wallet. So we have some solutions there that will encourage that interactivity. And to the question here, we'll expose them to the projects that are being developed. Yeah. So you'll see people on other chains exposed to projects, more exposure for projects.
Great, thank you. We do have another question here from Tron Hodler on Telegram. And their question is about the pegged rate. Will it be determined by adding the value of both blockchains? So they put an example here, which I won't get too deep into it, but just specifically, how is Sesameseed deriving that pegged value of Seed?
Oh, this is very simple. As I mentioned before, we're taking the node rewards. All of those rewards are going into supporting Seed. So we're issuing out 100,000 Seed per day. No matter how many rewards that we take in per day, that goes into a pool. That pool is divided by the circulating supply of Seed at that time to determine the peg rate. So currently, if there's 20 million Seed in circulating supply, there's 20 million Tron in that pool. The peg is 1-to-1. But obviously, if that number were to go to say 20 million Seed in circulating supply, 30 million Tron in that pool, that takes us to 1.5. So it's going to be the same thing with that new peg. So we'll have 20 million Seed in circulating supply, and we'll be bringing in maybe 100,000 of this token per day, and that will add, and that peg will simply be divided by the circulating supply. Yeah. So it's going to be determined by looking at those pool addresses and just dividing them by the circulating supply across all chains.
Right. And the next question I have here are, I guess, statements that may be worth addressing. And these are some of the concerns that seem to have been shared by a few people on Reddit, where I'm going to say bees have knees too. And there's Geo on Reddit. They were asking about what the commitment of Sesameseed is to Tron. There was a concern that there was a lack of focus or a lack of a commitment onto Tron. How will this move as a cross-chain community and multi-chain token affect the commitment? Will it expand it? Will it lessen it?
Well, I mean, this goes all the way back to the reward structure of 80-10-10. It really does. You have to take a look at, what I said before is a blockchain is its community. If it doesn't have one, there's no purpose of that chain. There's no reason to have it. It's not going to be utilized. There's no benefit there. The benefits of those chains are typically from developers, often community developers. Those developers get their energy, get their patrons, get their DAUs from the community. Yeah. So the best thing Sesameseed can do for Tron is to attract the more community involvement and attract more developers. Yeah. And when it can, sponsor those developers and incentivize that community, which is exactly what we're doing here. So I can get the feedback of, oh, geez, they're kind of opening their focus to other chains. But I want to say this: we're not taking this on like has been traditionally done. There have been other SRs or DPs or whatever that have done multiple chains before. I'm not aware of any that have decided to put those two chains together. When we do go to a new chain, there's not going to be Sesameseed chain A, Sesameseed chain B. We're not doing that. It's just Sesameseed. So what you're going to see is you're going to see these rooms getting busier. You're going to see more people coming in, more people with the same seed token coming in, more people using the same seed terminator platform coming in, and that's going to expose them to Tron.
Yeah.
So this will increase the community exposure, the wider blockchain exposure to Tron.
Yeah.
It's going to expose more developers to Tron as well. And I'll tell you, if Tron keeps making it this easy to develop on Tron, it's going to attract developers.
Yeah.
Look at Steam Monsters now.
Yeah.
Splinterlands, right?
That's a very good point. And so, just to either reiterate or just what I'm hearing is that this isn't necessarily a shift or a moving away. And the clearest way of seeing that is the fact that Sesameseed has not chosen to create these splintered communities, but in fact, unified communities across multiple blockchains that will then present them with either blockchains that there might be already holders for and don't know the reward model within Tron themselves, which is highly likely, or are not aware of the benefit of these blockchains, the speed of it, the ease of development, the community, the reward systems. And so in doing this, evolution of Sesameseed, it is only going to continue to expand the network effect, if you will, where more people are available to participate in its community, to hold its token, and to fund development across the blockchain as well. So, let's jump into another question here, and we have one from Doctor, who was the one that guessed or found the material proof for ontology, and he was asking about the reward system, or any other kind of reward system for hosting a node.
That's an interesting point. Up to today,
System on these DPOS.
we really encourage that community involvement in the form of participation through voting on Tron. Tron made it very easy to participate. The voting structure there is fairly unique in its ease of use.
Yeah.
There are other chains that do this, other DPOS systems that do allow for staking and voting in a similar kind of way, but not all of them do. So there are proof of work chains and proof of stake chains and ones that don't allow this kind of direct association. That doesn't mean Sesameseed can't expand it. There are communities on each of those chains. There are ways to earn rewards on each of those chains. And maybe not all of them do include voting in such a way. Going to those chains, we would just resolve the peg in the same way that we do on Tron and new chains today.
Excellent. Let's see. We actually had a few questions from Jake on Telegram. We'll try to address as many as we can. And this one, I think we've already covered about Seed Germinator and how it will integrate into multiple blockchains.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. We're doing the same thing with Seed Germinator. We're doing with our rooms on Telegram. We're going to keep it one platform and allow people to see projects on different chains or multiple chains and contribute as such. Also, I think there may have been questions about the reward structure there. Okay. Basically, if Seed Germinator does earn rewards off of a projects such as Eggies or Dig, Tron Watch Artifacts, etc. How are those rewards going to be sent out? Is it going to be just to those on the chain? And the answer is no, it's going to be sent out to all seed token holders.
So again, just reiterating the importance to have made this a token that operates across multiple blockchains, but still has a unified model, right? Excellent. And so we have a question here from one of the developers who's currently on Seed Germinator, Matt Rosen, Splinterlens. And his question was about trading in seed and receiving TRX for each seed that's traded in. And will there be a way to trade seed to receive this pegged value in return? In other words, it's no longer just pegged to TRX. It's pegged to multiple tokens across multiple blockchains. How will it be possible to redeem that pegged value?
So obviously, when we set out on Tron, we didn't say, hey, we're backing it, just trust us. We'll let you redeem it. We didn't do that. We made sure day one could redeem it. And I remember day one, we sent out C tokens and 99% were redeemed, you know, and that number changed. I actually used to track it until it got to a significant amount. But yeah, I think that's extremely important. It's a critical function when we go to a new chain that you're able to redeem that. Redeeming cross-chain is not a simple task. That would require the user to have a wallet on that chain, which maybe they don't. So we're going to need a way to take a seed from a single chain, convert that into rewards on multiple chains. We actually have a system which we have designed currently. We're in the process now of taking the necessary steps to have this built out to move forward with this. And I'm actually talking to blockchains that we're working with currently in assisting this development, because this is a fairly significant task, and we need to make sure that it's done properly. So there is going to be an announcement hopefully soon about exactly what that is, and there will be a system that allows you to easily generate, or in an automated way, generate a wallet on the other chain and claim your rewards into that wallet so you can realize them at any time at the current peg rate. Excellent.
And so let's get one more question here, and I think we can wrap it up after that. This question again is from Jake, and I think it's a really great question. And it's talking about what is the criteria that we use for making the decision to raise or lower that 100K value or seed that goes out.
So I guess that's a good point. For those that carefully read through this documentation, they did see the way that we worded this is we're not chiseling completely in stone that 100K for good reason. Obviously, this is a big change that we've made. We're giving the community, we're giving everyone as much notice as we possibly can. And we recognize that in the era of transparency, it's important to keep you guys updated on why we're making these decisions. The why is as, if not more important, as the how of what we're doing. And the why is going to come in the form of a transparency report, which we're going to publish every quarter. You'll probably see them on a much more frequent basis here at the beginning to familiarize everybody with this. And that report is going to track a lot of different factors. It's going to track how many seed tokens burn, the current circulating supply on each chain. We're going to track things like the current pegged value, the current participation or vote value of seed. We're going to be tracking some market forces and things like that as well. But ultimately, that report is really there to help us ensure that the trajectory of seed is exactly where we want it to be. We want seed to build in value over time. We want it to be worth more tokens every single day than it was the day before. As we go to new chains, as we earn rewards, that pegged value goes up on a consistent rate. And we want to build that system. We believe 100,000 keeps us in that system for a very long time. We have no intention of changing that. But that being said, there are market forces at work. If their changes would not be significant and they'd be very transparent, they were to come out and they'd be extremely obvious to everybody there was such a change to be made. That transparency report is how we're going to make these decisions in a public way.
Excellent, and I think that actually is a perfect segue to closing this question and Q&A section of the AMA by reiterating those core values, right? About being for the community, to being transparent by the organization, and to allow that privacy to our community. And the use of that transparency report, when that was shared as a possible solution, seemed like a very obvious solution because it further cements that transparency. As the seed token continues to evolve, it will be important for the community across all these blockchains to have access to all this information, understand the whys of seed and how it changes over time. And so that's excellent. Aside from what we discussed today, we also made mention that Doctor did find that we were operating ontology. So, Julian, do you want to make a formal statement about that?
Yeah. So Sesameseed is formally operating a node on ontology today. We are part of that system, and we're going to be continuing down that path. That will include a consensus node, which is essentially what I guess strong voters would consider like a voting style node or an SR style node. It's a bit different there. They refer to it as stake authorization. The rewards are a little different there, but to some extent it's fairly similar to Tron. So Sesameseed is operating a node to support the ontology network today. We will be operating nodes that you can actually participate in the near future. And I believe ontology themselves are going to be putting out some announcements today. We have some additional announcements to coincide with that. And we're looking forward to welcoming a new community into our system, into our community.
Great. Yeah, and so stay tuned. There, like Julian just said, we do have those announcements lined up with ontology. And so we want to say thank you to everyone who joined us today. Make sure that you engage with us on all the platforms on which we exist. So join our Telegram, our Reddit, and our Twitter, which seem to be the most popular for the way the community engages with Sesameseed. All of the links are below. In addition to that, we'll be adding the links to all the documentation that was produced in some of the videos that also exist here on the YouTube channel, so that you can have as much information as you can about this change. And if you have any questions, go into those channels, ask us, participate by voting, staking, or just having a conversation.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.